Howdy, howdy. Just getting all the technology set up. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. Hope happy Tuesday evening for those who are joining live, and happy whatever to other people who are joining us. I will put up the slides in a moment. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you feel like putting anything in the chat, feel free. Otherwise, we'll wait for Q&A and see how many people we get in. Positive thinking, such a great topic. I love sharing information. As a few of you know, as a former teacher, I love doing presentations. And of course, if you got a chance to look at the PDF that I sent, I also love to give you my sources. So we have a book list at the end of the handout. So hopefully that's useful information in case people want to digest it and dive deeper. You never know. Hey, nice to see you. Yeah, I don't mind at all if your name isn't what your normally name is. Thank you for letting me know. The funny thing is I don't think they'll get the chat and the recording anyway, so no one else will know. It'll be our little, not secret, but unknown. I'm glad you're here too. Thanks so much. Appreciate your support. Hope you get a chance to look through the handout. I probably was a little ambitious because I put in way too much, but again, I love to give resources, so we've got about 2 more minutes by my clock, so I wanted to make sure the technology was up, see who was able to get here on time. I did receive one text from someone who said that they are in traffic, and I said, "No harm, no foul. Get in if you can, and if not, watch the replay later because luckily this will be on my channel later, and I will send it to people who weren't able to attend and see if they can do some stuff." I'll kind of ask for some feedback as well as maybe YouTube comments later at the end. Make sure I hydrate since I'm going to be doing the talking. It is kind of weird to not see all the Zoom boxes, or in my case, Google Meet. But this is such an efficient way to broadcast and then have the shared recording available. It's a nice service that YouTube gives to allow people to do this. I've got 1 more minute. I did see somebody who popped off, so I was wondering if it was the time zone thing, if somebody wasn't in Phoenix to know our weird time zones. Everywhere on the website, I'm gonna populate it as Arizona time because it's so confusing which time zone we are in which time. Okay, according to my clock, it has changed. So, thank you guys for attending. I'm hoping a few more people will join in, but let's get ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen, so I'm going to suddenly pop into the bottom corner. So, if you wondered when you got my handouts why I left so much clear at the bottom, it was functional. I didn't want my face to block anything, even if you had the PDF to look through. So, tonight's workshop is going to be talking about both positive thinking and empowerment. And thank you again for joining me. As many of you know, I started Onward Toward Progress for my life coaching business, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we get to the fun part, which is a little of my background. So, again, this is my new way of sharing my 15 plus years of working in the field. And as some of you know, here in Phoenix, I just graduated from SWIHA, so I got life coaching training and got a lot of cool tools and things so that I could help people. My favorite thing is the aha moments. So I want to help people have a clearer direction, better focus, and staying positive through challenging times. And that is why. So, as many people ask, what is your why? My why is offering this positive thinking empowerment workshop is not only to share information, but also to spread the word about my new business. So, thank you for doing both of those with me tonight. Hopefully, you get some valuable information. That was my goal. So, for me, I thought of what is positive thinking. It is powerful too, though. So I love the mindset logic. So we're looking at how we think of things, what we look at things as. I love how the word approaching, how we're approaching situations. Hopefully, it's optimistically. Um, I love to be a person whose glass is half full. So, expecting positive results versus going into something thinking the other shoe is about to fall. And then, therefore, unfortunately, it does seem to happen. How about retaining hope? Because sometimes life can be challenging and you may not like what's happening in the world right now. There are many things that are changing and shifting, and change and shift can be uncomfortable. And then I also think of positive thinking as seeing the bright side. So maybe you have some other aspects that you would want to explore, but those are some key ones. And then one of the topics that I really wanted to cover is the misconceptions. Some people think that positive thinking is just ignoring reality. So, Pollyanna type thinking. And I think it could be more of reality is focusing on solutions and maintaining hope. You may acknowledge what's going on, but you also may say, I still choose to focus on working towards solutions, not problems. Maybe you could also describe it as the pretending to be happy. In reality, I hope that people are just cultivating a hopeful, optimistic mindset. And they do process their emotions because sometimes people do have emotions that indicate that they aren't so happy and they don't want to show that. They don't feel comfortable saying, I'm not okay. Another myth might be that you never experience negative emotions. I always want to be happy. That's what, the world says I should be. And in reality, we all have a range of emotions, and we need to both acknowledge and choose not to dwell on when we do have those negative ones. Because one of my experiences, as a few of you have heard, is squishing those emotions tends to bring them up later in an explosive way. And that's not very healthy or productive for your relationships as well as your own body and psyche. Another myth could be that you alone can solve all the problems. Good old Kelly can just do everything herself. She doesn't need anyone else. And the reality is, having a positive mindset instead of being stuck in negative thinking or limiting beliefs, which is what we'll discuss next, if you pair it with action, it gives you a way and an energy to address and overcome the challenges of life. And then that last myth is everyone has the same, and it's not true. Unfortunately, positivity and negativity are not going to be the same barometer, the same reasoning, the same thought process for multiple people. We all have our own perspective, those rose colored glasses, those blinders. So instead of realizing, if you could realize that, you can tailor yourself to other people and your own individual preferences and the circumstances of the situation. So I love these myths, but let's go to the positive side. Which myth impacts your life most? And what area are you ready to shift? I set a timer on my phone so that I could give you about 2 minutes to think about that, and I'll try not to talk too much, but for those of you who know me, I'm good at filling up air. It's nice to see a few of you here. Um, I'm talking pretty loudly, so if you need to adjust your, volume, someone who was mentioning that it wasn't hearing me, you might need to check your computer, and if not, maybe watch the broadcast later to be able to hear it. While you guys work on that exercise, let me just remind you of the myths. So, do you find that you ignore reality? You just pretend to be happy? That you try never to experience your negative emotions? That you alone can solve your problems, trying to do the can-do attitude a little too hard? And then you're the same for everyone. So therefore, it's really everybody's got the same emotions, so why bother feeling? And then is there an area you really want to shift? Area do you want to improve or address? 30 more seconds. I think if I were to tell mine, it would probably be the pretending to be happy because I'm one of those people that sometimes can just say life is okay when maybe it's not. We all have to realize that sometimes. And what I would want to work on is probably being more in touch with being my authentic self and allowing myself to tell people when I disagree with them or don't feel happy. And that is 2 minutes. So I hope that was a helpful exercise. Next, in identifying and addressing these patterns, many people may already be exposed to some of these. They've been labeled as many things like limiting beliefs, cognitive disorders. But basically, the pattern that this source that I came from described first was all or nothing thinking. So, how many people like that black and white? You know, the world of politics tends to say you have to be red or blue, you have to pick a side. And instead, what if you reminded yourself that there is a whole spectrum and there's a lot of space in the middle to where you could have a different take? Many people have heard me talk frequently about shades of gray. It's like, why be one extreme when you can realize there's a happy medium in the middle? What about overgeneralization? Viewing a single event as a never ending pattern. Because it happened once, it'll probably happen again. And instead, what if I looked for evidence that would disprove that reoccurring and then considered positive outcomes instead? So don't create my own problem. What about mental filtering? How about focusing solely on the negative and ignoring the positive? You know, when we get stuck in the blues, so to speak. And what about a strategy instead where we can identify just one positive thing about every challenging situation or change and a way to change our habits? As a few of you might have already heard me say, one of my big things is to look on the bright side, but also just realize that sometimes it just takes a little shift, a little change in your frame of reference, a little bit of acceptance of a situation might help change everything about the situation because there's more patterns to come. What about jumping to conclusions? I don't know. I've probably been guilty of assuming that I know what others are thinking or predicting that negative things are going to happen again. So therefore, I'm just ready for it. Instead, what if I just realized there's no evidence to support that the XYZ is going to happen and consider alternative perspectives? I was able to watch the movie In and Out 2 recently with a friend. And I loved the fact that in that Pixar movie, Disney, I think Disney owns it these days, they were talking about anxiety and how we want to predict all the possible negative scenarios to be protected as if that's going to help us feel safe. And what if instead we just realize life is going to continue to happen to us and just get to the place of acceptance and surrender? Maybe that would even lead to a little serenity? Possibility. How about catastrophizing? Expecting the worst case scenario to always happen, as if there's no possibility of something in that middle happening. And what if instead we were to evaluate the likelihood and develop a plan to handle if XYZ happened? But then it wouldn't seem as crazy because we kind of thought about it a little bit before, but we didn't obsess about it. Is that an option of strategy that might be helpful to you? And then here's a pattern I've been stuck in the past: shoulda statements. I like how this list also included shoulda, must, and ought. I'd usually do the shoulda, coulda, woulda, but same difference. Do those statements really make me think of the past and stay stuck in the patterns that happened before? What if instead I reframe these to be more flexible and realistic and acknowledge that maybe they could lead to better outcomes? Next, labeling and mislabeling. How about attaching negative labels to everything or to isolated incidences? It happened once, but yet I think every time it's going to happen again. And a strategy to address that might be focusing on specific behaviors rather than labeling an entire person, an entire situation, an entire family relationship, an entire romantic relationship, or myself as not great, frustrating, all those negative words that we can attach. What if I've labeled them and stuck them in my head that they're always judgmental, or I always seem to be judgmental around them and I don't want to be, but I am? How can I change myself first? Because I don't have much control over others, and I work on having a little bit of control over myself, more than a lot. Not always, not always. And then personalization. This is one I can identify with. Taking responsibility for things outside my control, blaming myself. Sometimes I would do that with just a little taste of sarcasm by saying, oh, yes, it's all my fault. I'm sorry, before anybody else would get upset. And what if instead a strategy to address would be to assess my role in the situation and acknowledge the factors that I didn't have any control over and see if maybe we could troubleshoot together instead of blaming? Now, I'd like to give you another 2 minutes to be able to address those. If anybody has any questions, I noticed something happened on the chat where things were retracted. So I'm not sure what happened because, again, I'm talking, so I don't know. I'm going to ask you to type in the chat. So, which pattern would you like to work on while I'm doing this 2-minute time? Anybody got anything they want to put in the chat? For me, I think the pattern I would need to work on most is personalization because I can take everything personally. Hence, one of the book recommendations at the end, if you don't know. I like it, personalization. Yeah, I can relate. The question is, how can we work on shifting it? So, again, Realistically assess my role in the situation and acknowledge which factors were beyond my control. Not fall back into that pattern I was just describing, where I accepted the blame for the sun rising or anything happening. Oh, accepting reality. Yeah, sometimes injustice can be a big label, feeling like you need to fight for justice. But part of it is also you need to decide what impact you can make and whether it's worth your energy. I like that labeling and mislabeling one too, because again, it's focusing on specific behaviors. Thank you for putting some stuff in the chat. Our time is up. So, what if we switch to strategies to cultivate more positive thinking? So, we kind of examined the things that maybe keep us stuck in the negativity slash self blame and unproductive behaviors and patterns. What if we work towards shifting to more positive ones? So, some of the practical strategies to stay positive. How about a gratitude journal? What if each day you were to write down three things you're grateful for, shifting the focus to the positive aspects of your life? One of the things I love is a meetup group called Laughter Club. And one of the exercises we talk about is when you wake up, what if when your feet touch the ground, you go, thank you? And it's again to a higher power, to whatever you want. Just the fact that we woke up this morning is something to be grateful for. How about practicing with positive affirmations? I love the ones that they have because they can challenge and overcome some of the self sabotaging thoughts. So the phrases that I liked were I am capable and I embrace opportunities. I love the ones that begin with I am because they remind me that I am worthy. I am enough. I am lovable, loving, and loved. So practicing positive affirmations. As a few of you have heard, I love to say putting the affirmations on the mirror and doing some mirror work. Sometimes that self blame and should haves. I could definitely relate to that. How about surrounding yourselves with more positivity? Engaging with people and media who uplift you and inspire you. I know somebody was telling me that they love to watch some of the inspirational YouTubes. There can be some things that bring you down in YouTube, but again, sometimes the cat videos, the silliness, anything that kind of just reminds you that life isn't so scary, that maybe I don't need to worry so much. I hope those three help you. Now let's jump to some more. As many of you know, I love mindfulness and meditation. So, what if you spent a few minutes every day in meditation, quiet, centering? One of the ones I love to do is a check in and just kind of see where my body's at. Do one of those meditations where I just kind of feel where my tension might be in my body. Working on the computer, sometimes my shoulders, my neck are really tight. So, if I roll it or try to just stretch it a little bit, maybe stretch my shoulders back so that I'm not the typical hunched on the computer or the cell phone posture. Um, for those who also have heard me say, I love box breathing. So the benefit of box breathing is basically trying to do the 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out, hold for 4. So let's just try that and see what it feels like. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. One more time because I kind of feel it, but it's not quite there yet. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, Hold for 4. Wow, I already saw a difference. So, mindfulness meditation, I think, can be great. What about cultivating your optimism? Trying to find the silver lining, the lessons to be learned, as many of you know from my teaching experience. I love to think of life's challenges as a learning opportunity, and my whole life could be a learning opportunity if I think of it that way. So, reframing the negative events can transform your mindset and change from pessimistic to optimistic. And I love to do those shifts to see what might be helpful. And then being kind to yourself, because I think self care, self awareness, self gratification can sometimes get the negative labels in our society as if they're not worthy. But by practicing self-compassion, forgiveness of yourself, because I'm sure willing to acknowledge that as a human being, I often make mistakes. And I need to be willing to say that in those mistakes, I hopefully learn from them and don't repeat them directly. I may repeat some of the elements, but hopefully not all of them. Sometimes I will admit it takes a few times for me to learn the lesson and fully change. But viewing them as an opportunity to learn is a crystal clear changing of your mindset, reframing as the optimism one reminded us. So, how many times can we be kind to ourselves? And one of the things that might be helpful in that one is going back to those affirmations that we were talking about earlier. So, based on these 6 options, hopefully you have your handout handy or you made some notes. Let me go ahead and give you another 2 minutes to see which options you think would be most helpful for you to learn more about, try practicing, or explore. Be willing to try it on. Give it a whirl around the test drive it. Give it a whirl around the street like you're driving the car. For me, I think the strategy I'd work on is being kind to myself. I sometimes forget to be gentle and loving with myself, to not beat myself up when I make a foible, a mishap, misstep. And which area am I ready to shift? I actually might switch that one to wanting to shift into cultivating the optimism. Because again, to me, seeing the silver lining is something I aspire to, but don't find my brain does it as often as my verbalize. When I'm talking to people, I make it sound like I've shifted it, but maybe not. So, in the chat, which ones have you found that you want to work on, try, or you're ready to give up from the negative ones and shift to one of the positive ones? If you have your handout handy, you could also just write in the boxes. That's why I designed it this way. My teacher hat. Thank you. The gratitude journal is great. And the trying on the positive affirmations. Thank you. I find that very beneficial. Anybody else want to share theirs in the chat since that's your only option? Okay. Well, thanks. I'm hoping you're finding this helpful. Again, being a teacher, I love to give the resources. So if you haven't read it, I can do it. I can do it. How to Use Affirmations to Change Your Life by Louise Hay. As many of you know, Hay Publishing does a lot of great things and has some great web resources for you to look at. So feel free to look at that book. It's really, really helpful on using affirmations to change your life. One of the books I got off my bookshelf was I put a picture of it, but the Feeling Good book, because again, it covers both the automatic thoughts, the cognitive distortions, and the rational responses. So it's very similar to CBT and some other therapies. They called it the new mood therapy. And I wanted to look at what year it was published because I did forget to check that. It was from 1980. So again, it's not exactly hot off the presses, but I think the information is very good. Actually, while I have it out, let me look. It gives a great index and other information, but it basically goes for over 600 pages. And for those who don't know, I honestly, for those in Phoenix especially, I usually recommend people check Bookman's or half price books before they go to Amazon and other places. Although a lot of times you can find a nice resale book for a fairly efficient price and hopefully minimal charge for shipping. It's also nice to support the local vendors. Many of you have heard me talk. I love Brene Brown. If you get a chance to watch her TED Talk about vulnerability, it's great. The gifts of imperfection. Let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are. Um, there was a web-based book study on that about a year ago now. Very, very good. If you want any information about that, feel free to email me after. I don't know what's going on with the chat. It doesn't seem to be storing. Something happens. And then last but not least, a book that I mentioned to many, many people in many different areas, The Four Agreements, A Practical Guide to Personal Freedom. And that was what I was referencing earlier when I said, don't take things personally. Because for me, that's a big one. I can think that people are not receiving me well when I have no information to that. I just assume and start my wheels turning and to get into that negative self-talk. And so the Four Agreements reminds me that I'm doing my best, and all I can do is my best. And that best may be 5%, 10% in a specific situation, and I want it to be at 100% all day long, and that's just not the way energy and everything else works. Yes, thank you, I do agree. Thank you for telling me this. The Four Agreements is an amazing book. Um, and actually, the Ruiz family has a great platform of a lot of different books. I think the son's taken over now on doing the Toltec type of presentations of how to improve your life, but it is a very good Four Agreements, and there's a fifth agreement, and there's a love agreements, and there's where did I put that one? Oh, I don't know. I didn't grab that one off the bookshelf. I do have the Gifts of Imperfection, though. Not that you need it because you've got it in the handout and on the screen, but it's really good. What year was that one from? I'm just being a nosy person because the guideposts are very good in that. That one was from 2010. So one of the guideposts I love is guidepost 1, letting go of what people think. Because again, you may have heard it before, I'll repeat it many times. What other people think is none of my business. Even if they're thinking about me, I don't need to worry about it because all I can do is my best. So, just to do a little bit of the spiel about my new life coaching business. Oop, one more click. Is there an area that you feel stuck? I would love to be there to help you. I want to provide a safe, confidential, collaborative, and productive online coaching environment to foster self growth, discovery, and resilience. Is there an area that I could help you? Do you want a dedicated encourager, supporter, and reflective listener who supports you through thick and thin? Do you want to identify what you want and do the work to get it? How about being all in with your own life? I love the remind myself, do I want to thrive in my life or just survive in my life? And is there a direction, goal, or priority you would want to explore? And just a reminder, I do have a complimentary 15-minute exploration online, although a few of you know other ways to get a hold of me. So, thank you so much for participating. Now we get to the part where I don't know if the chat's working well enough for you guys to ask any questions, or if you do have any questions or feedback. I would love to hear it. And if for some reason you're shy or the technology is not working for you, you could always shoot me an email later. But is there any questions about the content, or is there something you think I missed? Something that you found helpful in both that negative stinking thinking type of stuff, or the flipping the script and trying to stay positive that did work, didn't work, or something you'd like to explore? I know we don't have the capability to be able to chat and do nice screens, but if you want to type, I will make sure to address it. I'll give you guys a minute or so. Then, if there's nothing, I have one last call to action, and we might end a little early tonight. I love to wallow in self pity, and I can't seem to let go of injustice. Well, one of the questions I would have is it justice, or is it your version of justice? Because sometimes we get stuck in our way of thinking of justice, and the world is going to happen the way the world happens. And I know that's a hard one to surrender. And as you might know, I love the serenity prayer in moments like that. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, most of life, the courage to change the things I can, me, myself, and I on a good day, and the wisdom to know the difference. Where should I put my time and energy? Do I want to spin my wheels feeling anxious about other people's stuff? They're going to continue to do what they're going to continue to do, and all I can do is my best. But thank you for sharing. I think for me, one of the best things about seeing the brighter side is realizing, instead of Pollyanna type thinking, is just realizing that life is happening the way life is unfolding. And all I have is the choices that I have in how I respond to it. And my response can be a healthy one. And the way I usually term it is, my reaction is usually the autopilot of that negative thinking we were just talking about: cognitive patterns, distortions, whatever label you choose to put on them, the stinking thinking that I got in my family of origin. Okay. Well, thank you guys for your questions or comments. Now, my next thing is, my hope is to do this every 2 or 3 months. So again, if you want to suggest me a topic to me, please shoot me an email. Most of you have the email from connecting tonight, so you could just hit the reply button. Oh, thank you so much. I need to remind myself to practice, practice, and practice all this stuff. I put a few more practices in there because it takes a few times for my brain to take reprogramming. And then I have to do it repetitively to make it an habit. Actually, that's a good book. I should have put this in the books list. Maybe the next time I could teach on atomic habits. That's a really good one. And then, if anyone would like to take me up and even just help me practice, 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 feel free to schedule a 15-minute get acquainted session with me from my website. You all found it since you got registered. Thank you very much for supporting and helping. But I would love to have topic ideas, because I hope this was a helpful thing. I'm not surprised I talked a little fast and didn't go for the full hour. I am frustrated with the chat message retracted stuff, so I will have to look into why that would occur and what I could do to change it. But I thank you all for your time and hope that you got some value out of it. If you want to type anything in the chat, feel free. Otherwise, this recording will be posted on my YouTube channel, and I will ask if maybe the other feedback would be is if any of you have chance to go to the YouTube and add a comment, because if you know social media and YouTube, it always helps to have somebody say, "Here's what I got from this, positive, negative, whatever." Oh, thank you so much. I will see you Thursday, and I hope it was helpful. If there's anything else. Oh, okay. I don't think that anybody else will see the comments in the YouTube live recording, so it's not like any confidential information gets transferred for that. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. I'll give you another minute, but otherwise, I thank you guys for joining me and helping me pilot this new technology. And I hope the material was relevant and helpful to you. And I do appreciate your support. Yeah, that's interesting if you're seeing all the comments because for some reason, some of them say message retracted. Okay. Well, I see people are dropping off. So thank you so much for those who I'll see tomorrow or the next day. I will see you tomorrow or the next day. Otherwise, hopefully, I'll see you in another session. Please send in your topics. And thank you guys for your support. Have a good one.